What is budget? Only money allotted by the government. Only money allotted by the government comes under budget. Hmm. Yes. So it is an estimate of both income and expenditure of the government for a given period of time for every financial year. Not only expenditure, it also calculates every budget document. It says how each rupee is being earned by the government. Have you ever gone through the budget document anytime earlier? Budget. If you have gone through at least the snapshots which were given in the budget document, they will be categorizing the rupee, 1 rupee, whatever rupee we are earning, 50 paise comes from some sales tax, 10 paise comes from direct tax. This is how it shows us how income is being earned by the government. Same is the case with expenditure as well. Whatever income is being acquired by the government or earned by the government, in from which sector, from which segment we are earning that money, and to which sector we are spending it. It will also be very much clearly visible in your budget documents. So now, budget is an estimated account of both your income and expenditure for a given period of time, which is for every financial year. That is what is known as budget. So, is this term budget mentioned in our constitution? Yes or no? No? What is mentioned then? Annual financial statement. Annual financial statement. So when we define the term budget, is it an annual financial statement? Budget, is it an annual financial statement or not? Because whatever the estimates of income and expenditure that we are incurring and spending in a given financial year is what is known as budget. That gives us the annual financial statement. In an year, whatever the finances that is being earned by the government and the government is spending on it, the statement of all these income and expenditures is known as annual financial statement. So which article of the Constitution talks about this annual financial statement? Article 112. Article 112 of the Constitution talks about this annual financial statement. Who is the designated or competent authority to lay down this budget every year? Who is the competent or designated authority to lay down the budget in the floor of the house every year? Again, I'm repeating my question. Who is the designated authority to lay down the budget every year in the parliament as per Article 112 of the Constitution? Ruling government. Obviously, the ruling government will be laying down the budget. I am talking about the authority, the designated person. Niti Aayog. Finance Minister. Chief Minister. It is the President of India. Only on the recommendations of the President of India, the Finance Minister lays down. So, the President redirects. Every year, the President asks the government to lay down the budget in the Parliament. It is the President. Prior approval of the President is required for the budget to be laid down in the floor of the House. So, first you need to know that, the President of India. Only if the President of India asks to lay down the budget in the floor of the House, then it is being pronounced by the who? finance minister. Whoever is the finance minister, he or she will be reading out the budget of that particular year. So now, if finance minister is reading out the budget for that particular year with respect to that country, will the finance minister himself or herself prepares the that budget? So who will be preparing the budget? Who is the authority who prepares the budget now? Finance minister. Ade. We have different ministries. Obviously, finance ministry must be preparing the budget. In every ministry, we have some numerous departments. We have various departments. So, some particular department would be responsible for preparing this budget or not. So, in finance ministry, we have numerous departments, and in that, it is the Department of Economic Affairs who is the authority responsible for preparing your budget document. Department of Economic Affairs, which comes under your finance ministry. And now, in this Department of Economic Affairs also, you have different divisions. You have different subdivisions, various divisions. So, the budget division of the Department of Finance Ministry is the competent authority to prepare this budget document. The budget division of the Department of Economic Affairs under the Ministry of Finance is the competent authority to prepare the budget document every year. So when is this budget presented every year? What is the financial year? What is the financial year that we follow in our country? 1st of April to 31st of March. When is the budget presented every year? When? February 1st. Is this common for every year? Yes or no? Yes, February 1st. Let's say February 1st is Sunday. అప్పుడు ఏం చేస్తాం? సండే పని చేయరు కదా. So it is the first day of February. The budget is presented. Whatever, if it comes on 2nd or 3rd, Saturdays కూడా కాదు కాబట్టి the first day of February is the budget day. The finance minister reads out the budget on that day. So what does Article 112 of the Constitution says? Article 112, Annual Financial Statement annaru. But if you read it thoroughly, word by word, then you would have answered this question. Article 112 of the Constitution specifies that it is the President of India who shall, in respect of every financial year, cause to be laid before both the houses of Parliament the annual financial statement. So it is the President of India. So you have read only this annual financial statement and missed out on this President. The Constitution itself gives the President the authority to lay down the budget. So it is, the budget every year is passed on 1st of February. So now, like, what are included in the budget? What are included in the budget? వాట్ ఆర్ ఇంక్లూడెడ్ ఇన్ ద బడ్జెట్? ఏముంటాయి బడ్జెట్లో? రెవెన్యూ అండ్ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్. సో there are some categories of budgets. First one is called full budget. What do you mean by full budget? Full budget. Full budget. Basic definition of full budget. Budget ante chepparu. What is budget ante? Whatever income is earned by the government and its expenditure gives you the budget. So full budget ante all the complete the revenue earned by the government and all the complete expenditure which is incurred by the government in a given financial year is known as full budget. Then you have something called as interim budget. Have you heard this term, interim budget? Interim budget. Vinnara? What do you mean by interim budget? What is interim budget? విన్నారా ఇంటర్మ్ బడ్జెట్ అనే టర్మ్? ఎస్, తెలియదు. ఫుల్ బడ్జెట్ అంటే ఫర్ ఫైనాన్షియల్ ఇయర్ కంప్లీట్ revenues which were earned by the government and expenditures incurred by the government, it includes in the budget document for full financial year. Interim budget is the term which you often hear during the times of elections. Whenever any state government, or for that matter the central government, whenever it is going or running for elections, if it is going for elections ముందు ఏదైతే బడ్జెట్ గవర్నమెంట్ లైక్ ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ చేస్తుందో they will not be in a position to release the full budget. At those times, the ruling government, whichever is in power, they will be releasing a budget called as interim budget. Interim budget means only for that intermittent time, whatever be the time, like 4 months or 2 months untadi before elections. So that intermittent time lo only the expenses which are required by the ruling party or the government to run the government. Expenses కావాలి కదా గవర్నమెంట్ రన్ చేయడానికి. ఫైనాన్షియల్ ఇయర్ అయిపోతుంది. Till the time new government is formed and it is holding its positions, portfolios అన్నీ ఫామ్ అయ్యి గవర్నమెంట్ డాక్యుమెంట్ని రిలీజ్ చేసే లోపు it has to have some, or it has to meet some expenses. For that expenses it has to have some budget at its disposal. That budget is known as interim budget. So interim budget is released during the times of election years for the limited amount of time, be it 2 months or 3 months or 4 months. Only for that period of time, whatever the budget is being released by the ruling party is known as interim government. What is the major purpose of this interim government? To function, to day-to-day functioning of the government, whichever is ruling. So for its day-to-day functioning, this interim budget is released. So its amount is very limited, only for specific amount of time, which is obviously less than some 4 to 6 months. That is known as interim budget. Now you have something called as vote on account. Vote on account. Did you hear this term? Vote on account. Vinnara ekkadaina? Vote on account. No? So before I let you know that how the budget is being passed, how the budget is being passed. Budget. First, the finance minister presents the budget or not. In the first day of February, the finance minister presents the budget. Then what happens? Budget present cheyangane, will it come into existence? Yes or no? Direct vachestada, whatever finance minister reads out, spells out, will that becomes applicable on that day itself? No. There has to be some general discussion. Parliament lo em jarugutundi? What happens in parliament? Discussions. Whatever proposal is brought by the government, the ruling government, there has to be some discussions. Ours is a parliamentary democracy, and democracy discussions and debates are required or not? Yes. So even for the budget documents also, general discussions takes place. Once the general discussion happens, then next what happens? General discussion అయినాక ఏమవుతుంది? After budget is being presented, immediately whatever proposals are being put forth by the government, can the general discussions happens in very limited time? We have some session called as parliamentary sessions. ఏమేమి ఉంటాయి? Session అంటే ఏంటి? What is session? Where the parliament comes and meets for a period of time. Why do they meet? For discussing various policies, whatever proposals are being brought by the government. So we have something called as budget session అనేది ఒకటి ఉంటుందా? So this general discussion does not happen in one day or 1 week. It takes some time. Whole sessions of the budget, like they are classified under your monsoon session, your summer session, and your budget session. So budget session అనేది ఒకటి ఉంటుంది. So after general discussions, there is something called as vote on account. Vote on account. Budget lo emuntai? Budget is basically an estimates or proposals for certain incomes and expenditures. So that is just a proposal. So after the finance minister put forth his or her proposal, it goes through the general discussion. This general discussion happens in which house? Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha? Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha? Lok Sabha. Does Rajya Sabha have any role to play in discussing the budget? Yes or no? Yes or no? They can discuss later. Changes will not be. Suggestions can be made. Okay. If the Rajya Sabha, for any bill or any policy to be executed into a law, it has to be passed by the both houses of the parliament. Both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha has to pass for any bill to become an law or act. But with respect to this budget, what is the role that the Rajya Sabha have? It goes for discussion. If it come up with any suggestions, it will be letting them know. If not, is those suggestions binding on the Lok Sabha to accept? No. And is there any specific timeline within which this budget has to be passed by the Rajya Sabha? Yes or no? Budget. If it is a normal bill, then Rajya Sabha can take as much ample amount of time as possible. It can sit on that. But when it comes to budget, it has to either pass or can it reject any budget, Rajya Sabha? No. So 14 days is the grace period which is provided by the constitution. Rajya Sabha ki 14 days pampistaru. If they come up with any suggestions, and those suggestions might be implemented or executed, if not, they can be rejected. In 14 days, if the Rajya Sabha is not passing that annual financial statement also, that deems to be passed. So there is no binding or obligatory powers with respect to Rajya Sabha in this budget case. So vote on account. Vote on account ante enti? vote on account. General discussion aitundi. General discussion దేనిపైన అవుతుంది? On what aspects? General discussion happens on what aspects? Allocation. So whatever budget is being presented, budget లో ఒక సెక్టర్కి ఎడ్యుకేషన్కి ఇంత స్పెండ్ చేద్దాం అంటారు. For health sector, this much amount should be contributed. For defense, some 200 crores has to be spent on defense, technology import చేసుకోవడానికి అని చెప్తారు. So various sectors-కి budget allocation happens. So that budget allocations comes up for discussion. So after that discussion, there it goes through a process called as vote on account. So after discussion, what happens is basically the house adjourns ante takes a break or the resting period. So when the house adjournment is happening, then these whatever bills is presented by the budget, it goes to the different departmental related standing committees. There is some committees in the parliament, like if you go through the constitution, like finance commission and JP, you have different commissions. Danlo you have some committees called as departmental related standing committees. We have 24 departmental related standing committees. Every department, finance department, defense department, education department, external affairs department, like that you have 24 departmental related standing committees. These departmental related standing committees scrutinizes each and every proposal which is made by the finance minister in the budget. It looks into the all technicalities will be looked into it. After this, it makes up or comes up with some recommendations or suggestions. It gives some recommendations or suggestions. So whatever suggestions and recommendations were made by the departmental related standing committees, they are again laid before the member of parliament. Whenever they come to the session again, all these recommendations were given to the parliamentary members. Every member will have these recommendations. So in the original document, there might be some proposals, but whatever the recommendations were made by this parliamentary committees, there might be some changes in the original recommendations. So those recommendations, whether to go ahead with those proposals, whatever budget proposals were made and whatever changes can be made, can only be finalized by going through this process called as vote on account. Let's say if I am allocating 2000 crores for LPG subsidy, 2000 crores LPG subsidy ki budget proposal lo bettam. Then after scrutinization through this departmental related standing committees scrutinize chesin tarvata, it came up a proposal that 1000 crore is sufficient for this LPG subsidy. Because if there is a budget proposal, obviously the money has to be coming from the government. Government needs to pay for that or not? Yes or no? If 200 crores LPG subsidy annam ankondi, who is paying the 200 crores? Who is paying? Who has to pay? The government has to pay. Budget lo 200 crores subsidy istunamu ante the government should take 2000 crores from its pocket and provide it to the individuals, whoever is subsidizing that. So if this is reduced to 100 crores, then on a decision from decreasing this from 200 crores to 100 crores, it goes on with a process called as vote on account. In the floor of the house, they'll be asking to vote whoever are willing to, or after looking into all the technicalities and recommendations made by the departmental related standing committees, this can be reduced depending upon the willingness of the parliamentary members. That amount can be reduced. Either it can be increased or it can be reduced, or some proposals can be directly nullified. It can be cancelled. It can be brought down to zero as well. No allocation is required for that. Whatever proposal you have brought in the budget, it can be nullified as well. That can happen through this process known as vote on account. Vote on account. So after this vote on account is finished. After this is finished, the first stage is budget presentation, second is general discussion, next is vote on account, and then you have something called as appropriation bill. Appropriation bill. A bill has to be passed or not? A bill has to be passed or not? So what is this appropriation bill? What is this appropriation bill? Have you heard this appropriation bill? Along with budget, you have something called as finance bill and appropriation bill. Appropriation bill ante whatever proposals were being propounded in the budget document, they go through this general discussion, and after this general discussion is finished, it comes up for vote on account after the recommendations of departmental related standing committees. Vote on account కూడా అయిపోయిన తర్వాత vote on account అయిపోయినాక ఏం చేయాలి? In the above example, 200 crores ని 100 crore తీసుకొచ్చారు అనుకోండి. What needs to happen? That money has to be released or not? It has to be released by the government. That needs to be accepted. So that whatever amount is being appropriated by the government and it is passed in this budget, it comes out through this appropriation bill. Appropriation means, again, you have something called as CFI. CFI stands for government funds. Government డబ్బులన్నీ ఎక్కడ ఉంటాయి? Which accounts? In which accounts does government maintain its income, its revenues? Consolidated Fund of India. So CFI stands for Consolidated Fund of India. So whatever amount that the government is willing to spend, that amount should be coming out from this particular Consolidated Fund of India. Every single penny, every single rupee that the government wants to spend in terms of welfare, infrastructure, whatever, it has to come out from the Consolidated Fund of India. So in order to spend even a single rupee, does the parliament have the authority to do so? Parliament వాళ్ళకి నచ్చినట్టు government money spend చేయొచ్చా? Yes or no? No, they cannot spend. Even if the government want to transfer 1 rupee from government account to any particular, for any particular functions, it has to take the approval of the parliament. The parliament has to pass it. So whatever amount is being withdrawn from this Consolidated Fund of India, even if it is a single rupee also, it has to be passed by the parliament. So that passage or transfer of money from the government account, which is Consolidated Fund of India, to the various subsections or sub-departments, that transfer of money from government account to that particular account is known as passing of this appropriation bill. Only by passing this appropriation bill, even oka రూపాయి అయినా కూడా government account నుంచి ట్రాన్స్ఫర్ అవుతుంది. So that appropriation bill has to be passed. And you have this appropriation bill specifically mentioned in your constitution. Which article of the constitution talks about appropriation bill? Article 114 of the constitution. Article 114 of the constitution talks about this appropriation bill. Appropriation bill అర్థమైందా? What is appropriation bill? What is appropriation bill? To release for whatever గవర్నమెంట్ అకౌంట్లో నుంచి ఒక్క రూపాయి అయినా బయటకు రావాలి అంటే ఇట్ హ్యాస్ టు కమ్ త్రూ ద అప్రోప్రియేషన్ బిల్. ఆ పర్మిషన్ అనేది పార్లమెంట్ పాస్ చేస్తేనే ఒక రూపాయి అయినా ట్రాన్స్ఫర్ అవుతుంది. So that is what is known as appropriation bill. So appropriation bill is basically confined to the which segment? Budget lo two segments. One is your income, that is revenue, and the other one is your expenditure. This appropriation bill is addressing which aspect? Expenditure aspect. Whatever expenditure is incurred by the government, complete funding of that comes from the appropriation bill. So now the final stage is called as finance bill. This is the process through which budget is being passed. These are the various stages in the budget, how the budget undergoes. What is this finance bill now? What is finance bill? What is finance bill? Expenditure is being addressed by the appropriation bill. ఏం ఖర్చు పెట్టాలో అనేది అప్రోప్రియేషన్ బిల్ పాస్ చేయడం వల్ల వస్తుంది. బట్ డబ్బులు ఎలా తెచ్చుకోవాలనేది ఉండాలి కదా. ఓన్లీ ఖర్చు పెట్టడానికంటే ఫస్ట్ డబ్బులు వస్తే ఖర్చు పెడతాం. రెవెన్యూ ఎర్న్ చేస్తేనే కన్జంప్షన్ ఆర్ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్ ఉంటుంది. సో వాట్ ఎవర్ రెవెన్యూ ఆస్పెక్ట్ ఇస్ దేర్, హౌ ద గవర్నమెంట్ is earning revenue, this is being addressed by this finance bill. Finance bill. Revenue earning ante what comes under this finance bill? What comes under this finance bill? All your taxation system, all the taxes. If the government wants to levy any kind of taxes, whatever income is being earned by the government, all this comes, all your tax proposals, every year budget document lo tax proposals untaya leva? Whenever budget is being presented by finance minister, tax system, tax slabs pencha antaru, lekapothe GST slabs taggicha antaru. Whatever the revenue which is earned by the government, it comes under your finance bill. All right. So the revenue aspect, the taxation system, all this comes under your finance bill. And which article talks about this finance bill? Article 110 of the Constitution talks about this finance bill. Article 110 of the Constitution. All these are specifically mentioned in your Constitution. So you have to, like, whatever the government is not obligated, the government is not in a power to impose any taxes at its own will. Only by passing the finance bill only, the government can tax its citizens. Only by passing of this finance bill only. అంటే నచ్చినట్టు ట్యాక్స్ గవర్నమెంట్ ట్యాక్స్ ఇంక్రీజ్ చేసే రైట్ గవర్నమెంట్కి లేదు. ఓన్లీ బై పాసింగ్ దిస్ ఫినాన్స్ బిల్ ఓన్లీ ద గవర్నమెంట్ ట్యాక్స్ ఆన్ ఇట్స్ సిటిజన్స్. దిస్ ఈస్ హౌ ద గవర్నమెంట్ ఎర్న్స్ రెవెన్యూ ఫ్రమ్ ఇట్. సో నౌ ఆర్ యూ ఏబుల్ టు లింక్ అప్ ఆల్ దోస్ థింగ్స్? వాట్ ఎవర్ రెవెన్యూ ఇస్ బీయింగ్ ఎర్న్డ్, it comes under your finance bill. That needs to be passed. Whatever income or whatever expenditure that you are willing to spend in that financial year, that comes under your appropriation bill. And there is something called as vote on account also. Budget division, only Department of Economic Affairs budget division ఇచ్చిన recommendations ని ఖచ్చితంగా ఫాలో అవ్వాలనే రూల్ కూడా లేదు. It has to go through vote on account. Only then it is finalized for which sector, which department, how much amount should be allocated. That finalizes through vote on account. So these are the various stages through which your budget is being passed. All right. So in our next session we will be looking into various accounts. Accounts in the sense government account. Government account is basically classified under two heads. One is your revenue account and other one is your capital account. So again these revenue accounts are again classified. These are classified again into your revenue, receipts and revenue expenditure. Again these revenue receipts, there is a tree diagram how government is earning and all we will be discussing in our next session.